All right. So what I have is that basically are a lot of the greens that, that I had on that list, on that paper that I sent you. And I'm trying to find a copy of it, but the trouble is, here, no, just a minute, see if I can find it. It's not that urgent because I'm going to be working mostly with basic greens. I'm just going to go from here. All right, so what I did, I actually have a lot of greens mixed. What I'm doing is this for the most part, I would say I will be using the Viridian and yellow ochre mixture. It's just a little softer. So that's one mixture that I have here. I just want to tell you what I have, and then I'll give you time to mix some of them. And then the other one that we use an awful lot, of course, is our yellow, cadmium yellow with ultramarine blue. And that's a very rich mixture. You can always tone these down. I'll take a little bit of that green. I can always sort of soften it a little bit by taking just a touch of the transparent oxide red. So if I did that to my very dark green here.
What were the two other colors?
This is cadmium yellow, our basic yellow, and ultramarine blue. And then you get these rich greens. So if I wanted to tone it down just a little bit, if you feel, well, oh, that's a little bit too harsh or too strong, you can always take a little bit of transparent oxide red and just tone it down a little, and that softens it. So now by doing that, I have, there are just so many mixtures that you can use to do this. The very darkest green that we would use, which we'll probably use a little bit of it later, is ultramarine, Viridian with the transparent oxide red makes a very rich dark green. So if I have any place that I would want, to put that, I'll just put a little, just to show you. It's a nice dark green, and yeah, it's not black. So not, because if you have too much of that red in there, it's going to get really black. You can also, if you want a very, very dark, you can mix the ultramarine in there also. But for the most part, what we're doing today, I want to start to establish some of those leafy areas. Yeah, let me see if I can get a brush. Just to break up some of this background green. And I'm going to work on that first. That's over right in the middle of your photograph. So what I was doing before is this. I'm making a gray because its base is very gray, and it has a lot of blue in it, and it has some green. So even for me, like I've said so many times before, there's no formula. I can't say mix these colors, mix a certain amount of this and a certain amount of that. and you're going to get it. It doesn't work that way. What you have to do is make mixtures on your palette and then adjust it. So I had been trying to get that silvery green that is in the photograph. That's right over here in mine. And in the photograph that I have, there's a lot of, I'll put it right in front of the camera. So there's a lot of silvery green. And I'm sure you have that. So how do I get that? Partly will be establishing a contrast. We already have a background. So what we're going to do now is and look at how spotty it is and how leafy. It's not like you can paint a leaf and paint another one. It's splotches of that color that are going to help us to get this part right here. If you see on my painting, when I was working with that color before, in the foreground, I mixed a little bit and it just seemed that it's not right. Right here, I think I did that. I must have done it because I could still move it a little. So what I did is this. Take a little bit of cobalt blue. Take cobalt blue. We're going to make a gray. You can have tube grays, which I used to use a lot of the Portland grays that are gambling. They have a little bit of black in them probably. They were very great. But if we keep to our palette and mix our colors from our expanded limited palette, it's still limited because we're limiting it to just certain colors. We have cadmium yellow. I have a cadmium yellow deep. I have a red. I have actually a red light and red deep and alizarin and ultramarine blue. I have cobalt and I do have that Sevres blue. So that's basically a limited palette that is expanded, not from a 3-color palette the way we learned in the beginning. And it's important to remember what you learned when we did the limited palette, because it's always the same thing. You know, you might have a different blue that will make a gray. We also have a transparent oxide red, which is very important. So we know yellow and purple or lavender make a gray. We know red and green make a gray. And we know blue and orange make a gray. So whether it's ultramarine blue or even the Sevres blue, or whether it's our cobalt, we're looking for the complementary color, which is orange, and that's what transparent oxide red has, that warmth in it and that yellow. So take a little bit of your cobalt blue and just start with a tiny bit of the transparent oxide red and mix that together, and then add white and you're going to have a gray. Now, what I just did gave me a pretty neutral gray. I mean, if I want a real neutral gray, boy, that's it. If I wanted to have what they call a bias or lean toward a more bluish, then I'll add the blue. We're going to mix up a gray from this color and also from ultramarine, just so that you know. It's very good, very important to have some of those grays available. So now I have really very gray, definitely gray. I have more blue. If I wanted it to be more earthy, then I would add more of the transparent oxide red. if I want it to get a violet, I'll take the ultramarine blue and I'll take alizarin, which should be, you know, if you have your colors all mixed on the palette, which I don't have my violets. Basically, you know, I'm not really using them in this painting. So I made myself ultramarine blue with some alizarin, and I do want it to be violet. So I'm just keep on adding my violet and my alizarin until I have it. So if I took that and mixed it with that gray, that cobalt mixture, I'm really getting very pretty gray, very, you know, violet gray. I'm gonna go get a piece of canvas so I can swatch this for you just a minute. See if I can get it to stay there this week rather than fall into everything. All right, let's see. All right, so the first gray that I made is this. That's the first gray. Now, when I said I wanted it to be a more violet, no more, that's this. Now, you really would see the difference if I lighten it. I'm doing this way so that I can hold it down. And so you see how you have different grays with that cobalt. The reason I want the cobalt, and I'm going to move away that violet gray, I'm just going to put it on my palette here, because I am going to use the cobalt gray, but let's do the same thing with ultramarine blue. Take a little bit of ultramarine blue, putting it up here, and I'm going to take basically orange, right? So if I take a red, a little bit of red, my cadmium red, a little bit of yellow, so that I do have an orange, mix that together. And as long as I got have enough blue in there, and we're going to also do it with transparent oxide red, so don't worry about. So now I have and a different, it's really a nice gray, but of course it's a different gray. So that gray right here I have very dark. If I add white to it, it's just a different gray. It has more of that I guess it's cool. I think they say ultramarine blue is a cool blue. So the other one with the cobalt is a little warmer. It's just a matter of preference. So if I took that same ultramarine and used the transparent oxide red, and always taking, making sure my knife is clean, and I'm going to have another gray. Now that gray, very interesting. So if I wanted a really warm gray, that would be my choice, because now I have this, and I'll take it and spread it. And, you know, the more of the transparent oxide red you add to that, the warmer the gray is. So grays are very important. If we're mixing it from our palette of colors, from the palette that we're using, rather than taking a tube gray, which I also have, this is a violet. It's called, I think it's Holbein Holbein violet gray. And Kathy Odom uses that a lot. Very colorful, very blue, very blue. And if I, mix that, it's just a very blue that maybe is just toned down a little bit. So, but I'm not using that today. What I want is to take, so all right, so you got that? And did you mix any of those? What we'll do first, we'll start with that cobalt mixture. So the cobalt mixture, I use transparent oxide red with cobalt and then white. And I got this gray that I like. It's a very soft. It really is. It's a soft gray. And then, I'm going to make it a little bit more on the blue side because I want to get that silvery color. And I know that I have to tone it with that gray. So if I did that, and problem is when I do it, if the best thing to do is to make a good size pile, and I don't normally do that. So now I'm going to take a little bit of one of the greens, and I'll use the ultramarine blue and the yellow, and I'm going to put some white in it, doing it down here. And I managed to get a very soft green, but now I'm adding that gray. And I've made it more of a gray green, and then take some white from here. Now I'm going to play with it, right? So what do I have now? The only way to test whether that color is what you want is to place it on your painting, because I could put it on a sample, take it and just say, I'm going to swatch it here, which I will, I'll do it. And I got this very gray green. But the best way to judge whether it's the green I want for some of this area here, and this is something where you're going to take some of it on your brush and just look for where it might be placed. And I think I need to tone it down a little more. So this is what you're doing now. Work with that gray and that green, and then I just added a little bit more green to it. You can even take a tiny bit of Viridian, and I think that I have decided this is what's back there. And it does, when you look at the photograph, that whole area really has a lot of that in there. So in some places I'm taking a little bit of the gray, some places, but a little bit of the green. I want to make sure that sometimes you do see a bigger leaf, but let's get those greens in here. And then as it comes, if you look at the photograph, as it comes forward, it does get a little bit warmer. So I'm going to take that green with with the, whatchamacallit, yellow ochre green. And I'm trying to, right, that's pretty good. I like that. It's got a little bit more warmth. So I'm gonna try adding some of those bluish, a little bit warmer here and there. Actually just taking my brush and dry brushing, like scrubbing over here. And getting some of those, I want that middle, as it comes forward, let's just work on this middle area. Now, what I said before is ultimately, I have a dark green that's over here. I have a very nice dark green. And you'll look at your photograph and you'll see there are just some places. Make sure that it's still green and not real black. So it would be your darker part of maybe of the yellow mixture, and find where it'll make a difference, like here, placing it underneath that poppy, and then, you know, somewhere you're pulling it down and just leaving some of what you just did. And then another thing I want to try, there are, looking at the stems, and take, so I have that yellow ochre, and Viridian is another green that should be on the palette. But when I'm able to, you know, it's from right now, I think, see, it has to, you have to do it according to what seems to work. So I'm taking my palette and with that darker green that I have, which is still green and not real black, and I'm putting some of those stems in there. And what'll happen is, hopefully, see, the thing is, if you have the canvas in your hand, and you're not, I don't even know if I'm in your face, but it's working somewhat. But I just want to get some stems in there, and all it is I'm taking my knife, putting it almost parallel to the canvas, gathering a bead of paint on the edge, and laying it down. And it's breaking up. Those leaves are hanging off a stem. So again, you have to be careful that you don't overdo it. But you have to have a few stems in there. Some of them are light and more on the yellow green. And I have a yellow green here. So if I have that original green and have it with quite a bit of yellow, that's ultramarine blue and yellow. And I do want to tone that down too. It's just, to me, it's so harsh. So I'm just going to take a little of my gray. I'm going to tone it down. I'm going to get some of those in there. Nice. And, you know, you might even use your knife to get a few of those little leaves in there. So this is sort of painting in an impressionist. Don't be afraid to let a leaf go over one of your poppies. So if I'm working on this area, and I don't like what I did there, oh my goodness. So what I have to do, if I don't like it, I'm gonna get rid of it. And what's underneath is pretty good. So then as you come forward, I have to be careful again to not overdo it. And I'm using that what I just mixed with a little bit of grayish in it and the yellow. And now I have to find, do I want that? No. And what do I want to do with that? I want to make it a little bit more yellow ochre. But now I'm just looking for where I'm going to pick out a few leaves in the foreground. That where you're going to see are right. This, let me give this guy a stem here. So if this poppy, and I have to put my hand here, I'll show it to you when I'm done. So I'm trying to highlight or, you know, show you that this is a stem. And I did it the same way, holding my brush like this and just don't make the stem the same value or the same green all the way down, because then you just have a line. When you look at the photograph, you'll see that in some part you see a dark, those stems in the foreground really are very much on the olive side. So the green that you mix with Viridian and yellow ochre is a very good green to use for that. And I can pull it down. And I can take, but remember, the stem always comes right out of the center of the flower. So do some of those leaves and remember, look at the photograph too. In the photograph, you'll notice that the sun is coming from left to right. So be sure that that's what you do and not have it at one place, the sun's coming this way, one place is coming that way. So now looking at that, looking at this stem that I just established, I'm going to do this. Now I'm going back and I'm going to give that particular poppy some leaves, not many. I don't know what's growing there, but can't get rid of it. So because you have all these greens mixed, you know, you can have a variety of greens. But what this is doing right now is bringing these poppies to the foreground. That's what I want. They're the only, well, some of them in the back do have stems. Not much, but you want to see them if they're there. And see, now what becomes difficult, is I just tried to do that with a brush and it didn't work. The only way I can do it is if I'm going to use a palette knife, really. Just to get a light here and there. So you can move paint around with your palette knife. And if you see something that you did that maybe is too much, very easy to change, you know, to break up. Then I'm gonna keep going. I'm looking for a darker green. So I want to make sure that this poppy comes behind. Difficult. Let's see if I can, I'm getting my hands a mess. Trying to find my very, very finest brush that I can use for the stems. And be careful that you don't make the stems too skinny. I'm looking at what I did, and you realize that on here I have to get the dark right here. I want to get the dark side of that. And if it doesn't show up, then you think light against dark, dark against light. But this brush is working a little bit better, not much. I want to see the stem of that poppy coming down so that they're sort of growing out of the same area. And that one that's up there is joining this. So if that's there and it's curved, I can bring it down so that it, and then you have those pods. We could work, you can work on this thing forever. There are pods, so I want to add some pods. The pods are, in some cases, that yellow. I think I see a couple that are back here that I just want to indicate that they're there, and I'm trying to make it a little thicker. And do a couple. I mean, don't overdo it and don't underdo it. In other words, do it right. So if I take this pod that I have here and I'm trying to take, this brush is very soft. So what happens is sometimes it gets a little difficult to get it to do what I want it to do. But it is my preference. It really is. So if I see any of these colors that I think, all right, I can make that a little bit green. Where's that pod? What did I do with it? Oh, yeah, here I think it got a little bit, my brush is splitting on me. So we want a variety of greens. We want the leaves to be, you know, this area to be it's just the way it is. I mean, let's face it, you're not seeing every leaf in the photograph, and we're not doing a photograph, we're copying it to be a painting. And I will have to look at this and go back and add and take away, and just want to get that area in there. I know there, when I go back to that area, I'm going to get darks in there, but not a lot. A little even darker. I'm taking a little bit of the darker my darkest green. I'm trying to go with it. The dark green would be Viridian and transparent oxide red, or Viridian and alizarin. You can try that. Try that. Viridian and alizarin is very dark. So if you want if you have a place where I need to have just that real contrast, that's where I'm going to put that. Viridian and alizarin, very dark. I'm looking at the photograph and I see, I'm looking at my painting, and I do want this poppy to pop. So I'm putting some dark green just there. And it's making it three-dimensional. This part is very difficult to decide. What do I need? Do I need to break up the greens here? How much am I going to do? I don't know. Because right now I'm going to sit back and look at it and see. See, some of those darks are now bringing the poppies that are here that we're going to just work on more probably later, maybe not today. But I want to get some of those darks in that part of the painting, and I think with a stiffer brush. Got to be careful because it almost moved it too much. So this is pretty dark. Now look at the greens that are in the foreground there. And I do believe it is this green. Let me just see. And I want to get some of those leaves in there, just so that they're, so that you see them and So I'm taking some of the greens, and trying to be careful not to make it, too much of a contrast. But in the foreground, I do have to have these greens that I'm putting in now. I can see that. I'm just popping my brush. All right, so that right here, that poppy, by the way, is not nearly done, but I'm going to put in my leaf, my stem, which I see that's coming down. Again, as I said, I have to be careful to make it thick enough, or not that it's just a skinny little. And I want that to come right off the edge of the canvas. Realize there are leaves here. There might be a pod. So it's a matter of looking at what you have and finding Where is it? Is it darker? There, it's here and there, it gets darker. But what I just did, right, I'm gonna have to work on that poppy. Let me just see what I can do with that. And you know, some of them, I want to go back. I'm going to take my red. I have my brush fairly clean from before. I'm leaving that center that I have. It's actually green, but I will adjust that. And looking at the poppy that I am using as my example, I see where it comes and gets a little bit more, you know, more a brighter red. I can take a little bit of the next color yellow and mix it with it and get a nice edge. And I'm going to take this, goes there. And then clean my brush because I have too much yellow in it now. Now I want to get the bottom part of that poppy. I'm going to do it this way, right here. And I'm then going into my alizarin. And I'm going to give it a nice dark bottom. Not too much, but enough alizarin that it's darkening that. So where else? There's a shadow here. I'm trying to really make it more impressionistic. And sometimes it's easier and sometimes it's not. But I like this. So now if I really want that red and a little bit of the warmer yellow, whatever you have, you know, if you have and I'm going to get that contrast. I want it here, light's coming across. It's hitting that. And I think I have to make this a little bit irregular. Darker. And I'm going, oh, I have my red deep, still very red. And I'm just adjusting some of these foreground poppies and picking out where they're highlighted, you know, by the sun. And I, you know, when I'm looking at the photograph, I think, you know what? I think I'm going to break up a little, put a little bit where you see a few more poppies, you know, sort of poking through. And be careful not to overdo that. There's that pink kind of. Gonna get another pink. You know, I'm making my pink again because there's that sort of couple pink ones. I don't know if I want them or not. But you have to be careful to have enough of them if you're going to do this. Just sort of putting a few of those in there. I actually prefer maybe taking a little bit of alizarin. That alizarin up there is dry. Alizarin and white and the red, the lighter red or any red should make a nice pink. Let's see if I did it. Yeah, that's a little better. It's more of the pink that's in those flowers. And then even with that, get a little more red in there. And bunch them, you know, I'm just putting this area where you see some of those lighter reds, lighter pinks are in there. And then I'm telling you, I have to keep on stepping back, because if I don't, I'm not going to be happy with what I'm doing. So I'm trying to take my time, not overdo what I just did. And I like, it's sort of, what should I say? It's flattening the area. Now this one here, watch what this. I want to just break it up a little bit with some green. And it separated it, looking like it's more than one flower, which it is. And I'm taking the green again because I'm looking at this and I can wake up some of those. Okay, step back, sit down and take a break. And it's, you know, all right. So here's the thing. What I just did, I really like. It's like I'm standing back from, which I was obviously when you take a photograph like that. And the camera gets the poppies in front, and it is basically, you're seeing the top of the flowers as they go back, and establishing, like, so here you're standing, you see these. Here it's leveling out and you're seeing the tops. Going back, obviously there were some that were very tall in the back, whatever you want to do with that. But I like what I just did, and I might very carefully, so that I don't overdo it. I want to be careful not to overdo it. But I might just put, you know, some places where you see just a little tiny bit of it. And then back, get some of those greens that I did. Now I want to just, this brush does so much red in it, that's all I'm getting. And I'm just trying to break this up a little bit. So you might see that. You know, as you work, you'll say, you know, should have made that more solid. Now I just ruined what I did. And if you have to use your finger, do it. So that's gotten very busy there. So right here, where I'm going back, moving back, and I'm going into my darker green, and I'll take some of the very dark green. And I just want to start transitioning a little bit. There have to be stems coming over this. And then you start seeing, you know, that more of yellow green So you can create a path. This is turning out to be very impressionistic, really. I think you can hear me. Can you hear me? Hello? Is anybody there? Pat? Brian?
I'm here. I'm here. I'm here.
Okay, I just got scared because I'm talking away. I hope they hear me.
No, I can hear you. I have it on mute, so you can't hear me.
Okay, just so I know, because like I said,
And Brian is on mute also.
yeah, all right, but the thing, like I said.
No,
I'm
we're
finding
we're
that
with you. I'm
that
with you.
I'm finding that I'm speaking softer when I got my hearing aid. I told Pat before, Ralph keeps asking me, what did you say? What did you say? And I'm just thinking, I hope you're hearing what I'm saying. Maybe I'm not talking loud enough.
No,
All right.
we can hear you.
All right.
You know, you're fine.
I'm glad.
You haven't lost us.
It's I'm trying now just to start to transition to that background where I'm not going to be that where I'm telling you, I'll probably break some of this up too eventually, but that's something I have to contemplate. All right, so I'm going back here. And I see a lot of a more yellow green, and I'm still going to stick with that yellow ochre green, and it might be just a little lighter. And let me see if I just get a little bit of that in here, not much. Just so I'm basically right now, I am just scrubbing my brush over that area. And then as it goes back even further, it gets sort of a wheat color. So I'm still going to use that color. And I'm going to see what happens if I take my white, get into that, and maybe even a tiny bit of that gray, right? A little bit of that gray that I'm using because it's not quite that bright. But I can get that in here. Yeah, that's good. And I'm going to bring some, so I don't want to, I'm being careful not to make it a stripe. And you can adjust it. You can adjust it. Take a little bit more of the green in some places, but this is right here. And I'm going to put it right across where the cement thing is, which I don't want. So again, I'm just looking at my palette colors and transitioning gradually. And I'm going to pull some of those up and come down. I want to bring it a little bit more yellow here. And bring it. See, I'll probably have to go back and wipe that off. Maybe not. No, I like it. So don't do the whole, leave some of what you have underneath. And where you think you want to bring it down a little bit, you can do it. Because I don't want it to look like a stripe of that. And I want it to gradually come into this area It's some kind of busy. All right. So you got the idea here, right? What is it? It is time to sit down, sit back, or stand back. It's bringing what this is doing really is bringing the sunlight into it. It's kind of interesting. So I know that you're both seated, so you can't, you know, when you stand back. Good. All right, so it's going to come a little bit. And now I'm taking that initial color that's coming in here, and I'm bringing that in. Whoops. And so that it meets that green. And I'm going to take my brush, I'm going to clean it, get a little bit more of a few of the reds in here. And now I'm taking it and okay. See this, I'm not happy right here. I know I'm going to change something there when I eventually. So now I'm just taking my brush. I have some red on it. I'm making it look like there are quite a few poppies back there. And I'm going back up here. I think I have to start working on the background trees. I kind of think, you know I have to work on, look at this right here. Look at how that needs that transition, that change, the contrast, the edges. It actually has that feel, you know, when I work on this off camera, because I cannot reach over there, I will probably put another poppy here and just bring it over. Now what I want to do is take the transparent oxide red. Should really clean my palette. And I'm taking some green, some of the Viridian, if I still have any left. And white. And I want to make a very warm gray. It's very red. And I want it more to come into the white. I'm gonna take a little bit red. How about a warm green? So I'll take a little yellow ochre. Yellow ochre. And more of the green. So I have an earth color. I don't know if I'm going to like this or not. Let me me just see what I did. Wait. Yeah, I like that. All right, look. There is a path. And I was going to put it in, so I'm going to think about that. And it's it'll just break it up a little. So that was green and transparent oxide red. Oh, it was viridian and transparent oxide red. I did add a little bit of what did I add? Yellow ochre to it. So you can adjust it with any sort of yellowish. But I want to get the idea that you can walk along a path. And that will help, I think that'll help bring it forward. And you might see a little bit of it here, I don't know. And then eventually I know I'm in your face now, but I have to get over here. And then some of those leaves and stems are going to cross over that. Okay. So if the sun's coming this way, we have shadow here. And since that is a yellowish, I'm going to take some of my violet gray that I made and I'm going to bring it in here and see what happens. I may be sorry. And then I'm going to go into this orange and white and cobalt. And I'm going to get a green, which I don't want. So I just want to add that warmth, a little bit of that warmth, like sun hitting it. So I just made a soft yellow. This is where the sun is hitting. And then clean my palette knife because now I do want, my bag. I do want to get some stems that cross over, and I think it would be more this green. Yeah, almost got them. I have to do it with a brush because I can't grab, I can't get, oh, let me get the color I want. There's so many greens here. So now I can take I just add a little Gamsol to it. So a little Gamsol, and I'm going to break it up like weeds, grass. I think that's the best way to do it, is just to thin it out a little bit. use a brush that works, this one does. And then goes uneven. And same thing, I can take it and get some of those other lighter, I think, very hard to okay, here. Ah, now it's got too much white in it. It just doesn't want to cooperate. I wonder if, no, that's too much. Okay, let me see. Yeah. See, sometimes you just have to coax your brush. But I think I'm almost overdoing it, which I don't want to do. Okay. Okay. All right. I see a few things that I have to do. I do want to leave that dirt in there, that path, so you realize that someone has walked through the field, and on one side you have the pink and red poppies, and we're close to this foreground. I know that I'm going to go back. I know that I'm going to look at it very, very carefully, where I want to get a few of the darks in that middle area with those silvery leaves. And I do like the field. Anything that goes into the distance will get lighter and grayer. Now I know that you see that line of trees, and we have to put that in there. I do anyway. If you notice, the one tree that I already have established, I do have to work on the trunk. Then behind it, I did more of a very soft violet blue gray that would take you back further into the distance. And it just it's like this garden or this field goes on forever. So what I want to do next is decide where I'm going to put that line of trees. And also I added sky. I felt that was very important. I definitely will have this path when I sit back like that, I can make decisions. And I want to get that gray that I have, one of the grays. If this came here, you might see a little bit of it here. I got to be careful. I just want to see if that works. Probably not. Now I want to be careful. I'm getting too picky. That I'm going to take out. So just this is where I have to show that it's coming, that is here. It is going to be bluer. And maybe I'll let it show a little bit here. That's all. Yeah, so this right here, eventually I will adjust. And that's where the path goes. It'll break up these leaves, which will fix. It has nice color here. It has sunlight. It has shadow. And it grounds everything. I guess that's what I want. I'm gonna get that green back that I just messed up. The thing is, if you have all these colors on your palette, it's best if you continue that part of the painting using those greens that you've been using with, and not try to go back and say, oh, how am I going to mix that again? And that is another reason why I said, having this limited, expanded but limited palette and mixing our grays from that it will be much easier to do that, to go back and be able to get very close to what you did. In fact, pretty much should be able to. Okay, right, let me look again. What's doing, it's kind of interesting. I might add a little bit more color to that. I'm going to be careful not to do too much. There's the path. It's coming here. It sort of gets lost, but the line of the poppies is leading you right back where I want to be. So we're walking here, and you see how it's forming that S shape and taking you right into the whole painting, not just where you're looking just at this right here. Okay, what am I going to do next? I'm going to get rid of this piece of paper towel. Keep your brushes pretty clean, then you won't have to do so much work afterwards. Squeeze it, clean it in the wet, in the dirty, and then just dip it in the clean Gamsol, and you'll be surprised at how clean the brush is, really. Okay, I got a little bit carried away, and I want to get rid of a little bit of this. I can take my palette knife, put paint on that way, scratch it, scrape it. Get a little bit. I'll get another piece of paper towel. Oh, I just don't like this. It's just too much. I'm gonna have to come back in there. Oh, I have a light on, no wonder. Get it out of the way. Okay, now I'm gonna go in the back. Take my stiffer brush. And I'm looking at my darkest greens that I have over here. And I want to create a nice shadow. And like a, too much, too dark. Don't like that at all. I don't know what that was. All right, let's get rid of it. So I don't like the color. And I'm taking a piece of paper towel, I'm dipping it in Gamsol, and because what's underneath is dry, I can just wipe it off like that. All right, that green that I have there is really a black. And I'm going back to what I had over, mixed here with these dark greens. And they're rich, they're dark. There's a tree coming here. And again, I want to be careful not to make it a stripe. So if the light is coming from left to right, I want some dark shadows on those, on that side of the tree. A little bit more. And they're in the background. And I think I'm going to come, just let me try. Let me see what I want to do there. I want to get it sort of open field. And it's probably standing in your way. I'm taking that green. And it has to have that, it's now going into the light, and it does have that bluish tone to it. So I have that mixture that where I did add just a tiny bit of the Sevres blue to it. And now I'm going to use that into my green, my yellow green, and I'm going to get that in there. I think that will be good. And where I see it's not warm enough or not light, not yellow enough, oh, now I'm using a very cool yellow. And I do have 2 yellows on my palette, I really do. Because I'm trying now to get another green. Okay, now I'll go back to the darker shadow. And if I am going to put a tree, let's see, I have, it's going into the distance. I don't like the photograph better. I am going to make a line of trees. So in order to get my trunk, it's now transparent oxide red and Viridian, which is going to give me a brown red and green. Looks like I need more. All right, so suppose this is one, and I think most of you have put a whole line of trees back there, and I think we're better off. And it comes there. I'm bringing this one down. And it's open here. I'm gonna don't put them all straight up. One leans one way, one leans another way. Whoops. This one, I'm gonna lean it that way a little bit. At 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I'm gonna put one more here. That's where my trees are gonna be. So now I will get my shadow green in there because it's gonna be right in there. So I'm just taking my darkest green that I mixed and see if I like it. Break it up a little bit. So I'm not covering every little bit. I'm showing, you know, the shadow coming. There. Eventually. It's going to come all the way back up there. All right. And then behind that, we have a warm, soft, warm green. I'm going to take some of that grayish green that I mixed down here, and I want to mix it with a little bit of my yellow and white, a little white. Actually, I'm just going to take some from there, make sure that it's yellow enough because, and I'm testing this, it's really. Yeah, I like it. All right, so it was those gray greens that I mixed in the beginning, and I just added a little bit of yellow and white to it. And so it's got to have, it has to have some of that grayish in it, right? That gray blue, because it is back there. And that's where the light is hitting it back there. And I'm varying that. Don't want it too much, but I do want that sun to streak in it. It actually does in the photograph, changes a little bit here and there. It's a pretty good photograph. Got to be careful not to make it too white. But I know that that's going to be the sunlit area back here. I'm sort of bringing it in behind, it will be behind that shadow when I get that shadow done. And I'm going to break this up a little bit. It's up to you. You know, I'm sort of adjusting the line of that shadow and bringing the light into it. And still, you know, getting that shadow. Let's see. I think I want it like this. It's going to come underneath the tree. And then I can adjust that later. While I have that that color on. I might want to find some of those lights and darks and. And it's a good thing. I'm gonna get that sky area in because that's the only way we'll be able to judge where you are, what you've done, and what you still have to do. I'm gonna scrape. I don't want to scrape too much off so that I have what I want. Let me go over here. Have a nice clean area on the palette that none of the other colors are going to contaminate it. So I'm taking, use cobalt. And because I've had my brush in all those colors, I'm going to go get clean cobalt. It's actually, if I can get a frame, I'll see in a minute, if I have a frame that's 9 by 12, it's always helpful. And now I'm taking clean white, everything on here. What you can do is you can pick up, now here's clean white, right? The other white that I was using has every color in it, which is wonderful. I'm taking that and I'm moving it down here. And it will form a pile of what they call mud. So I'll take this, there's a little blue. And because it has all the colors you're using in it, it's, again, it will blend, it will work. Now, what I just mixed was a very nice light gray. I want to try something. Too light. It's too light for what I want. But it's, you know, you should be able to use it. You know, if you take all your colors that you've been using and you put them all in the, you know, when you want to clean your palette like that. So suppose I'm taking this, which is a green. Here's a little bit of red. Put that in there. It's called mud. And it forms a gray. And a gray that you will be able to use with your other colors. Now, what I just did has enough green in it that I have a really nice gray. It's this. So your mud pile, you can mix when you have to gray something out. But my purpose is to get rid of that. Get a clean paper towel. Take the cobalt and white. And I'm going to make a very light blue. I actually have too much. It looks light, but it probably is not as light as I want. Let me see, clean brush. Let me see what color I have. Actually, it would work at the top. You know, as you come down toward the tree line, it's going to get lighter. I'm just almost afraid to lift this. The other day, the painting went right into not anything really important, but all right. So I have that back there, and I want that and also a little bit of Sebs. Or turquoise or anything, cerulean. And I'm making that blue very bright. And I'm going to take a dot of yellow in there. And a dot is really incredible. I mean, that turned it to right away to such a green that I used a little, that was just a dot. But we want that because to create that perspective, you use cerulean with a tiny bit of that lemon yellow, or very light, careful with it, barely use it. And this is what you're going to get. This is a very clean new brush. And that's what you want, lighter. I want it lighter. I'm going to take a little bit of Gamsol. That's too much. All right. But see, this is what's going to go down here on that part. And that's going to carry you into the distance. It might be a little bit too much. So I will take this cobalt mixture, come into that, soften it a little bit. So if I am going to carry, trying to decide, where my tops of the trees are going to be. There's a tree here. He's going to come around. There'll be a little blue here. But I just want to get some sky in there. So I'm using my cobalt. I do have a little bit of that other mixture that I had, but let's just get some blue back here. Can always go over it with tree branches. But just so that I have an idea, it's opening up. It really is. It's opening up this painting. It really is. I want to bring that down. I want that to go back further. And certainly we'll adjust this in the end, but at least I have something that I can compare the sky with this. And what I want to do, I'm going to bring it right down where just a little bit of my distant hill is going to be in there, but it's going to come right down. See, and I'll show you what else I want to do right now. I want to wipe my brush. The trees are nowhere what they're going to be, but at least I can compare the sky with all my other colors. And I am going to take some of my violet gray, which I happen to have, and I'm going to get those, and I'm going to put a little bit of cobalt in with it. Let me see if that works. And a little bit of ultramarine. I'm trying to make a nice bluish gray that is going to sort of be the mountain in the background. I think I got too much. I think I got it too blue. All right, lighter. And where's my wonderful gray? Right here. Lighter, grayer, light. But these, now that's going to just form the shape of a hill or a mountain in the back, I think, when I'm done. And yeah, okay. The color's actually really good. So there is a hill in my mind, in my head or whatever. And that will poke through here and there. And it adds another, this very soft color. You can see, you know, I've created the mountain in the background. This is going to be part of a tree here. I'll come over it when it's dry. But I just wanted to sort of get those colors back there so that when I, you know, it's creating distance. It's just creating a nice distance. So what we're going to do, I'm going to give you a chance now to ask me some questions if you have them. And we'll go from there next week. What I want to do is look at what I did, decide what I have to do in order to change anything, so that I'm ready to work on it again when we work on it next week. But I do like that distant mountain. And I might even have to bring the background, that brighter green, adjust that shape a little bit, I know. But I will be able now to do the trees that I want to put in, to know that that hill is going to show through part of it. And sort of finish off the painting. Let me go see if I have a frame, because it makes such a difference when you can look at it in a frame. And eight by 10. This might be a 9 by 12, and that's 11 by 14, just a minute. This is a black one, and I don't think I would like black on this, but I just want to look at it. Oh, goodness. Let me get a clip, because I want to show you this. If you have a frame around, it's always good at this point to put it in. Because it makes a big difference in how you can see what you did. All right, here it comes. Oh, this is a heavy frame. Let me move the palette. Paint over it. Makes a difference, it really does. Let me see if I can find a place to put this where I'm not going to drop it on the floor and cause a big problem.
I have to get them, right?
Okay. All right, now.
Oh, wow.
There you go.
Well, you're right, Carolyn. That really
Doesn't it make a difference?
crazy. Yeah.
Wow.
Wow. Yeah.
You know,
I have to look for a frame. I don't have any 9 by 12s now.
this is just one I hate.
Yeah, but that's it. Yeah.
But
That looks-
now I can look at it and say, all right, I am going to bring that tree right up to, you know, the sky's going to come through, but the top branches of those trees are going to go off the canvas.
Yeah.
And I can decide where I want to change something, why it's,
Yeah, it looks good.
all right.
Well, yeah, I have to, I only have
I do
one
that a
frame
lot.
left. Yeah.
I have a couple frames that behind the door here. And I have a 9x12, I have an 8x10. And if I can do it, this is what I will do. Now, I know, and I honestly think that on the very left side where the path is, that I'm gonna put a poppy right here. Right here. So that, again, they're just little areas of the dirt showing through, but it will also bring everything, you know, forward. But I think it's a good idea if you can do that. Any questions?
No, this is fun.
No, it's good, and it's starting to come together.
Yeah, yeah. I know that feeling, you know, I think, okay.
Yeah, I wasn't
I see
sure.
a couple things that I have to do. I do want to, I don't know, I think the trees,
I need to do more on it, but it's
Yeah,
starting
I
to look
wanna-
like a painting.
I need to get the poppies across the dark shadows of the trees, the way they are in the photograph, because it's just a little bit, I don't know, I'll figure it out. I'll figure that out and I will do it, and then we'll continue with it that
Yeah, I
way.
like the path in yours.
But it really, by putting a little bit of the blue in there
Yeah,
and
Looks good.
quieting, putting, you know, making that back a quieter area, not so busy. So that it's, you know, so you have a quiet, softer, you know, that there's just
Yeah.
not, everything is in focus, so to speak, carries you into the distance. But I think it's gonna work.
It's coming along. I'm starting to like it.
It's-
That's good. That's a good thing.
It's not, as I said,
It's a hard painting too. You know what? There's no easy paintings. I
no,
mean,
it's not. It ends up, you know, sometimes I look and think, oh, this is
And
gonna be easy.
you don't get a painting in like one day. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a process.
I think. what
How
I
did
will
Van
do-
Gogh do all his in one day? That's
Well,
the thing.
yeah, well, step right up.
I am not a fast painter. I can't understand how some of those artists can just knock out a painting and
Wow.
look. It's, I know I'm a slow painter and I'll change things, but anyway. Any questions?
That's good. Nope, we're
No,
good.
this is really fun.
It's fun, yeah. I'm
lo-
starting to, yeah, really get it here, so cool.
I love your frame, actually, for that
You
painting.
know what? It's not bad. That happens to be a Jerry's frame.
Oh, it is a Jerry's frame, yeah.
It's a Jerry's frame. It's their,
Yeah,
not-
I have one similar. Yeah, I
it's
like them.
They call it the master or the.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think it is a
And
master.
I actually, you know, what's good about it is the painting is so full of colors, so busy.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is quieting it down. So
And the
I'll-
other thing is the frame is so dark, the light like brings your eye.
yeah, that's true. I will use this. I'm glad that I.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
It just brings you into it like it's a window. Right?
Yeah, it does.
I see, you know, I got blue paint all over it, but
Yeah.
I'll get that off. But anyway, all right, well, no, Pat, now will you be able, let me turn this off.